From the earliest moments of our lives, comparison begins. We stand shoulder to shoulder with siblings and classmates, each of us given a silent scoreboard. Who smiled first, who took their first steps, who spoke their first words. As children, we intuitively know comparison's razor-thin contours. Is it jealousy or admiration? Attraction or repulsion? We don't yet grasp how deeply these early patterns can shape us, how the habitual weighing of ourselves against others quietly siphons away our confidence, energy, and joy. Comparison is not just a passing thought, it's a subtle poison, an insidious drain on potential. Imagine two plants, planted side by side. One leaps upward in the morning sun, the other shrinks in its shadow, whispering doubts into its roots. If the first brags about its height, does it help the second grow? If the second bitterly envies, does it bloom? Comparison doesn't just feel like a personal failing. It masks the fact that each of us has a different soil, a different sunlight, a different seed. And yet we look across the rows and measure. Taller, smarter, faster, wealthier, more popular. We tally up perceived deficits, forget to water our own stems, and ignore the still inner call to grow where we are. Before long, the habit of comparison becomes a survival strategy, one that battles identity with envy, instead of cultivating identity with authenticity. Why does comparison grip us so tightly? Part of it is biology. We are social creatures, hardwired to monitor our place in a group. Are we safe, loved, successful? But what began as survival polarization has in modern times become a constant grind. Social media grants us 24-hour access to highlight reels, glorified feeds where others' triumphs can make our own small victories feel insignificant. And within our inner lives, the ghost of comparison is acute. We study others' resumes, photos, updates, and accomplishments, and we're tempted to forget the context, the struggles, the unseen hours of effort, pain, and perseverance. We unconsciously measure ourselves against versions that don't even reflect reality, and so we contract in size and ambition. Our potential shrivels not because we can't grow, but because we wonder if we deserve to. Let's be clear, comparison is not the same as healthy aspiration. Healthy aspiration is fuel. It's the admiration that says I see a life bigger than my own, yet possible, and I want to stretch toward it. But comparison is the theft of inner peace. It whispers I'm not enough, steals contentment, and fuels procrastination and paralysis. It uses other people's success as a measuring rod for our failure. In that measuring, it dims our vision, fractures our identity, and buries our unique genius in a pile of shoulds and what-ifs. But there is another way, a path out of the comparison trap, back into our own potential. To reach it, we must first accept the truth. Comparison is killing our potential. It dilutes our uniqueness and hijacks our creativity. When our energy is diverted outward, to obsessing over what others have, who they are, and what they achieved, we have less energy left to build, to dream, to act. Comparison is not the sign of a growth mindset. It is the symbol of a heart that's convinced it's already inadequate. Our journey away from comparison begins with awareness. We must notice the subtle shifts in our emotions, the tightening in our shoulders when we scroll social media, the knot in our stomach when we hear about someone's win. We must ask ourselves, what am I measuring? On what expectations? With whose standards? Awareness is the first act of rebellion against comparison. It's the light that shines a new path, the path of choice, not judgment. And then we must choose ourselves. We must make a commitment to our own lives, our own pace, our own definitions of success. We decide that we will seek inspiration, not envy, that we will fill our hours with purpose, not bitterness, that we will invest in our strengths, not spotlight our shortcomings. We will become collectors of our own evidence, the small wins, the tender progress, the lessons from stumbles. We will write our own definitions of success based on who we are, what matters to us, and what we're called to create. This path isn't easy. It demands courage. When we choose ourselves, we risk disappointing the parts of us who want to fit in or be seen as enough. We risk being misunderstood. Why aren't we chasing the fastest score, the largest paycheck, the flashiest title? But it's in that risk that real growth lives. Comparison ties us to another's standards. Choosing ourselves gives us leverage to build on our own. To step fully into our own potential, we must also deepen our gratitude. Gratitude is the antidote to envy, the light that reveals abundance. When we appreciate what we have, our relationships, our unique talents, our momentary breath, we loosen the grip of comparison. We begin to see that life isn't a fixed pie. Each of us can create a new slice. We're not competing for scraps, we're each creating from our own capacities. When our minds cycle to what someone else has, we can pause and name the richness in our own existence. That pause is a recalibration. Then we can choose generosity instead of judgment. Comparison also dies beneath the weight of collaboration. Instead of pitting ourselves against others, what if we lean in, learn, connect? We discover that the skills and strengths we envy can be taught, shared, leveraged, not fungible in a zero-sum dynamic, but expansive in a collective dance of creativity. When we uplift others, we don't diminish ourselves. Instead, we invite reciprocity. We embed ourselves in a narrative where potential isn't hoarded but amplified. We become part of a movement rather than a measurement. Our potential demands openness. Comparison thrives in a closed system. What I have versus what you have. When we open our minds to possibility, our hearts to generosity, ourselves to community, we burst the comparison bubble, and our unique path, our purpose, our passion, comes into sharper focus. We realize what we've been trying to replicate doesn't fit, it wasn't for us. We understand that our truest work arises from honoring our own story, our own inner call, not from chasing another's chapter. There are countless stories of people who once lived comparison's silent suffering. Gifted creators who stopped creating to mimic trends. Natural leaders who quieted their instincts to mirror influencers. People who minimized their gifts to chase someone else's. But when they reclaimed their story, when they painted what only they could, built what only they imagined, shared what only they knew, they lost the itch to compare. They wrote their masterpieces in their own voices. And when their authentic work met the world, it rippled. Not because it was louder or larger, but because it was true. Their stories weren't for everyone, but they were exactly what the world needed. Comparison is not just pernicious, it's tragic. It hides possibility behind illusion. It convinces us that we must prove ourselves, that we must measure up, that we must conform. We think success looks like someone else, when in fact real success is the truest expression of ourselves. Comparison kills the most radical possibility of all, that each of us has something only we can bring. If you felt the claw of comparison, of scrolling through highlight reels and feeling your chest tighten, you are not alone. That is the context of your time, but you are not condemned by it. You can step out. You can cultivate a practice of alignment. What does that look like? It begins with daily recalibration, morning reflection. Ask, who do I want to be today? What strengths will I bring? What light will I share? Before you open your phone, open your heart.